We can talk about what tech still needs to do in a moment, but it does sound like you think Microsoft, at least, has thrown down a gauntlet of sorts.
Absolutely. Microsoft is unquestionably in pole position now. They've made a set of big announcements last week. The biggest one is that in addition to being carbon neutral by 2030, which is an incredibly aggressive goal, they have said they're going to undo all of their legacy emissions by 2050. That's hundreds of millions of tons of CO2. It's audacious, it's very hard, and it won't be free. But they've put $1 billion into an innovation fund and are finalizing developing their plans on how to proceed.
Yeah, Nadella talked to our Jim Cramer about the motivation behind this last week. Wouldn't you expect then big tech to follow suit? And of the other big players, at least in the mega cap space, who would move the needle the most if they did follow suit?
Well, thanks for asking. They certainly have the balance sheet to do this work, and they have the ethos. That's important. Now they need to activate. Out of all the companies that can take the lead forward, Amazon's the best position to do it because of the nature of their business and because of their supply chains. They have made very, very small commitments compared to, say, what Microsoft is making today. And in fact, some of the small companies like Stripe or Shopify have made more concrete commitments than a company like Amazon. Google, similarly, and Alphabet, their parent company, X, all of that cluster, they have an incredible capability. They have staff and engineers and teams and stuff like that. But at this point, they're still sort of toying around with corporate procurement. They have yet to make the big investments. They have yet to make the major commitments and change a business model they need to hit those kinds of targets.
You just mentioned, Julio, how hard it is to get to carbon neutral. I just want to take a step back and actually look at what it means when a company says that they're looking to get neutral, because it's not necessarily just a matter of completely getting off of fossil fuels. You also have offsets and credits and basically a complex amalgamation of how that comes out to be neutral.
I'll come back to offsets in a minute, but the easiest way to think about it is today, a company like Microsoft has 16 million tons a year for all of their Scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. All of those together, they can maybe get rid of, 12 or 14 million tons of that through efficiency and conservation and renewable buying and improving their supply chains. There's a bunch of stuff they can do, but there's always legacy emissions. There's going to be a couple of million tons at a minimum, maybe as much as 4 or 5 million tons that are just really hard to get, and that's a big number. And you need some kind of platform or service that can deliver that kind of volume to the market today. And people are trying to pull that together, but they can't. We have discovered over the past few years that offsets don't quite do that. And buying offsets doesn't actually remove the CO2 from the air and oceans that we need. So they're made the right starting position. We're going to figure this out as we go. We're going to put the money in place. But, man, getting to zero requires undoing the hard-to-abate stuff like planes or shipping and all these things. And it requires ultimately cleaning up your mess at the end of the day. That is a big, big order. And we need more options and technologies than we have today to do the job well.
Their desire to actually remove all the carbon they put into the atmosphere as a public company over the next 30 years, is that going to require the development of technologies that don't currently exist? Or are there technologies that actually are there but perhaps aren't getting the necessary investment that can pull carbon out?
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. There's actually enough to start with now. We need to scale it up. And Microsoft identified 4 of them in their press release. They want to do more with trees, planting forests. They want to put carbon back into soil using advanced agricultural practice. They want to combine carbon capture and storage with bioenergy, something that's called BECCS, or bioenergy with CCS. And they also want to suck CO2 out of the air using direct air capture and store it permanently in rocks. And all of those exist. And they exist with companies that will give you offerings. They exist with, guarantees and wrappers around the performance of this stuff. We need to scale them up. At the same time, we also want to bring down the cost, increase the performance, widen the option set, and that's going to require a whole new level of investment and enterprise than we have to date.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.